On Saturday, male and female homosexuals converged on Hyde Park for an open-air rock concert, the climax of Gay Pride Week. Stonewall 79 marked the 10th anniversary of the Stonewall Riot in New York, the first time that homosexuals had fought back against a police attack on one of their clubs. In Britain, Gay Pride Week celebrated 10 years of gay liberation. Adult male homosexual relations had been legal in Britain for more than 12 years, but homosexuality remains controversial. At the recent trial of Jeremy Thorpe, his homosexual tendencies were said to be a fatal flaw in his character, and homosexuals still complain of discrimination. Last Thursday, a Home Office committee provisionally proposed that the age of consent for homosexual males should be lowered from 21 to 18. But the committee's minority report wanted a further reduction to 16, the legal age for heterosexual relationships between men and women. Tonight, World in Action reports on a day of gay pride. Saturday morning, outside the Gaze the Word bookshop in central London. A group from the shop is getting ready to lead the afternoon's procession. Inside, we asked how the homosexual community had changed in the last 10 years.
Well, what has happened has enabled us to form a kind of community, to be evident, to raise our own consciousness, to learn to accept ourselves as real people rather than second-rate citizens or whatever cliche that anybody puts on us, and to be more independent, find each other, because the homosexual community was always very split, separated. People were terrified of being known to be homosexual by anybody else, often by other homosexuals. This is slowly fading away. It hasn't vanished by any means, and I personally think it'll be a long time before it does vanish. But I think that is the most significant change.
I think another thing as well that's very important is I'm not heterosexual. I don't want to be mistaken for being heterosexual. And to some extent I've been forced to wear badges, particularly, you know, how dare you assume that I'm heterosexual, because I'm not.
Perhaps just raise another interesting point about the way homosexuals are treated, is that almost entirely we are thought of in terms of sex.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, it is really bizarre the way, if I am introduced to non-gay men in certain situations, and they know I'm gay, they immediately start thinking I fancy them. You know, just go straight in on the sexual thing, which is no more important and certainly no less important in a homosexual's life than anybody else.
That's quite interesting, actually. You know, we're just basically doing boring things like going to work and walking down the street and going to Sainsbury's, you know, ordinary, everyday, boring things. But you can't do that because you're queer, you see. Queers don't shop in Sainsbury's.
Right. During the last 10 years, gay contact groups have been formed all over the country. In Liverpool, the Friend organisation counsels homosexuals who want to join their gay community to display their sexuality openly, to come out. On Saturday, Friend hired a bus to London for the march. Organiser Robert Longley.
The people that don't want to come out, I mean, they've got very good reasons for not wanting to come out. Right, people are paranoid about it, you know, and they think it'll be worse than it actually is. I mean, nearly always it isn't as bad as you think when you actually do it. But there are real reasons for people not coming out. I mean, you know, like they don't want to get, you know, beaten up or something if they live in a particular area.
You're going to London today. Is it a different world for gays in London?
Oh, I suppose so.
Yeah, I think they have it much easier than we do, yes, yes.
Not all that good. I mean, East End, of course, you know. I mean, it's like the same problems in Liverpool 8, you know. But, I mean, if you live in Islington or something, well, I mean, you know, I mean, no problem, is there?
Too bad for the gay revolution. This is as far as you get. And if you think you're free, well, listen to me. You ain't seen nothing yet. All gonna feel the backlash, puritanical power, kicking us down when we're on the ground, gonna be their finest hour. Better decide which side you're on. The ship goes down before too long. If left is right, then right is wrong. You better decide which side you're on.
Many homosexuals fear victimization at work or anger and embarrassment in their families. Half the Liverpool party sat on one side of the coach out of view. The rest were happy to be identified.
Chosen Reed and White House, they're out to get your guts. Better decide which side you're on. Forget those ifs and buts.
As the coach set off down the motorway, we talked to some of the younger members in the group. First, Sean, who's 19.
It was a very, very slow process, but since about the age of 7, I realised that I was being attracted or feeling attraction for other males and not females. I wasn't turned on by females at all, and yet males of my own age and older than myself began to attract me. And as I said, it was a slow process of self-discovery. But in the end, I accepted the fact, around the age of 18, that I was gay.
Was it a strain trying to decide whether it was really true or not?
No, I knew it was true, but it was simply a strain trying to accept it myself. I was frightened. I felt guilty. One does. A lot of gays have experienced this. You feel like a criminal. You feel you're sick. You're a freak. You're not a part of the society that you're living in at the time, and you begin to feel very dejected. It's very lonely and isolated. But once you come out, it's a whole new experience, and it's fantastic meeting other people of your own.
How long ago was it that you decided you were gay? How young were you?
I think I was about 20 actually before I realised that I was gay. Until it came to me in a flash. I was just talking to people, and it just made me realise that yes, that's how I felt. I wasn't quite sure before.
Had you had boyfriends and tried the heterosexual lifestyle?
I hadn't actually had boyfriends. I tried to sort of play like heterosexual, and I knew that I was supposed to like fellas, but it just didn't feel right at all. You know, I didn't really know what was wrong with me. I thought maybe I was frigid or something like that, and then suddenly realised, and I found out there were such things as homosexuals, and that was really good. That's what I wanted.
Sean, there's some proposal that the age of consent for homosexual sexual acts should be lowered from 21 to 18, and you're in that group.
That's right.
How do you feel about that idea?
Well, it would be nice to feel legal. But there's a difference. I mean, the age of consent for a heterosexual male is 16, and yet the proposal is to bring the age down from 21 to 18. Well, why not to 16 and make us equal? But there's still this difference, this differentiation between heterosexual and homosexual. It's disappointing in this day and age. I mean, people are really beginning to accept homosexuality now. Let's show it. Let's really push for it and give ourselves equal chances, homosexuals and heterosexuals.
You better decide which side you're on. The ship goes down before too long. If left is right, then right is wrong. You better decide which side you're on. Oh yeah!
And I think that it was very interesting in the trial that you got this kind of contrast.
The question of public acceptance of homosexuals has been highlighted by the trial of Jeremy Thorpe. In London, the Gay Activists Alliance discussed the implications of the case.
Almost caricatures in this case of two different kinds of homosexuals, two different kinds of homosexuality.
It's a trial of the last 10 years. The last 10 years of experience, it's a trial of the whole idea that gay people can come out and say, I am glad to be gay. And I think that's what we've got to tomorrow. During Gay Pride Week and the period after that, we're going to try and reiterate into this, is this very idea that neither Thorpe nor Scott are representative of the gay movement, although I think Scott comes out of it much more creditably than anybody else, because at least he wasn't prepared to crawl back into a little gopher hole and hide himself. I think what we've got to pull out of it, and this is what concerns us, is a re-emphasis of this idea that we are glad to be gay. It is not we who are fatally flawed. I am not a Greek tragedy. It's that parody of life outside, where people live in little families, where 70% of all murders take place in the family, where child battering has reached endemic proportions, and where at last more than 50% of marriages break down in divorce. That's the Greek tragedy. That's the fatal flaw. A society which forces people into that sort of straitjacket, out of which it's impossible to escape, unless you're prepared to crawl in the gutter and live like a rat, or you have so much money that you can climb out of it and pretend the whole thing doesn't exist. During Gay Pride Week, that's the point that we're putting across, surely, the point that we're glad to be gay, that we are not fatally flawed, but society is.
At lunchtime on Saturday, thousands of men and women gathered at Temple Bar to begin the march to Hyde Park.
I think today will just show the people of this country how strong people feel about a topic which is our life. We are homosexual because we are.
There are a hell of a lot of gay people around, that there isn't the sort of loneliness and isolation that was felt 10 years ago when the modern gay liberation movement started. There's support, there's help, there's assistance, and it's the sort of day that gives people the courage to sort of go on and just enjoy themselves as gay people.
The Liverpool bus was running late. We asked the party how important the march was to them.
While marching may be very good for your own morale, is that actually going to change anything? Is it not simply going to confirm the prejudices of some people and probably be largely ignored by many other people?
That's right, we can be ignored quite easily, can't we? Because a lot of people, you know, I mean, they don't believe that there's that many gays around when there are, you know, I mean, it's sort of 1 in 20. And,
yeah,
you know, the fact that there's 10,000 gays on the street is really important, I think, you know, it's an important thing.
One of the Liverpool passengers preferred not to show his face, but he told us about the threat of discrimination.
I feel very strongly about this because I am confronted with this problem every day. There's a lot of times when I feel totally upset by it and go home from work ravelled and feeling really bitter about the situation. But in a place, the environment where I work, there's very little I can do about it because society has made the situation what it is.
Many people in this country really believe they've never ever met or ever seen a homosexual in their lives. And if this march has meant that these people now know that they've seen people on a march, ordinary people just like themselves, then it's achieved something very important.
The Liverpool bus finally got to Hyde Park just as the march arrived there. So the Merseyside gay community joined their friends at the end of the procession. At 3 o'clock, the march reached the musical Carnival at Hyde Park. A 3-hour rock concert was the climax of Gay Pride Week. master of ceremonies for the afternoon was Tom Robinson, Britain's best-known gay rock star.
Happy birthday, dear Stonewall. Happy birthday to you. And 10 years after the event, what's happened during the last week? On Thursday, the Policy Advisory Committee on Sexual Offences reported they were going to recommend lowering the age of consent for gay men to 18. A minority report from a third of the committee favoured 16. Incidentally, for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, heterosexual people can do whatever the hell they like at 16. On Thursday, Tony Whitehead, as you saw, was suspended by Burlett's School of Languages.
Tony Whitehead described how he feels discriminated against at work.
I've met discrimination work several times. 2.5 years ago, I was working for British Home Stores as a management trainee. I was forced to resign from that after having appeared on a television programme in the Southern Report, which was dealing with gay groups in Brighton, and I was just appeared on the programme. And after a lot of tussles, I was really given no choice but to resign, or to accept the fact that I never take part in any controversial politics again. Since then, I've been teaching English with a view to going abroad to teach. And I've been working for Berlitz now for 3.5 months. And I've been wearing badges all that time for one thing and another. I've been wearing a gay badge for some time. But it was this last week I was told by the deputy director that my badge had been seen by the directors and was thought to be offensive. Would I kindly remove it? I said no, and I came into work next morning wearing the badge as usual, taught my full day's teaching, and then was taken to see the director of the London schools. And he had some other people there, so I took a union representative in. He made an ultimatum: remove the badge because it's potentially offensive to students, which is his argument, or accept suspension.
The Bishop of Southwark said that, and I quote, "Homosexual relations can achieve a pure and glorious relationship, and such relationships may be necessary if fullness of life and true happiness are to be obtained." Glory, hallelujah. On Monday last week, Carl Hill was accused by US Immigration Service of being an alien afflicted with a psychopathic personality.
In San Francisco, gays have played an active part in city politics. But in spite of the public respectability of homosexuals there, 2 prominent British gays faced trouble on a recent visit. Michael Mason, news editor of Gay News.
Well, that's right. My lover and I, Carl Hill, arrived at the airport. An immigration officer saw that he was wearing a London Gay Pride button on his lapel, asked him whether he was practicing homosexual, and when he said yes, arrested him. And said that as a homosexual you're excludable from the United States, and we are sending you up to a psychiatric tribunal to determine whether or not medically you're a homosexual. So anyway, Carl was sent off to this tribunal. for this diagnosis to take place. It's a diagnosis that takes place under the category psychopathic personality, and sexual deviancy, homosexuality is one of the categories underneath that. The psychiatrists are a bit upset because they no longer have a mental illness or medical condition called homosexuality. They struck it off their list of diseases a couple of years back. So they're being asked to make a medical diagnosis of homosexuality when no such disease exists. So there is at present a legal battle going on in the courts to try and sort out just whether this law can operate anymore.
But this was in San Francisco, supposedly the gay capital of America.
That's right, but I mean, I don't think it takes away from that title because it was only an immigration officer and a couple of immigration officials. The welcome that we had once we were past immigration has been extraordinary from all sections of the community. The gay community asked us to lead the annual parade through San Francisco, and we got an official apology and a welcome from the mayor and the city council at Grace Cathedral in front of an audience of 3,000. So I think San Francisco is still what gay people think San Francisco is.
So you'll go back?
I'll go back. Oh, I'll be back next year.
We are family.
There's any danger that a public demonstration like this is going to force people to be discriminated against that much more? They're going to hold themselves up as a target?
Well, all you're saying is just go away and hide again. I mean, if we stand up and people do discriminate and people do say, go away, we don't like you, or queer bashers set in on people, well, that's precisely what we've got to deal with. But until that's out in the open, until we can get people to say what they feel and how they react, you know, nothing will change.
We are family. My brothers and my sisters with me.
At the end of the day, the small group from Liverpool summed up their impressions.
Jim, what's your impression of how the day's gone altogether?
I think it's been very effective. I'm very pleased with it. You know, the turnout, basically, the amount of people that bothered to come, took the trouble to come from all over England and Scotland and whatever. And I think the main object has been achieved, and that's making the public more aware of the amount of gays in Britain, you know. I don't think there was many of the public that didn't sort of realise what it was all about, you know. And I think most of them sort of were fairly agreeable with what was going on, you know. There's only about one person sort of shaking her fist, you know, and she was about 70 odd, so I think the general reaction was pretty favourable, you know.
Yes, but the public you're talking about are the few people we've seen lining the streets of London. We're not really talking about the great British public. The great British public will only see this march as they see it on television or reported in the newspapers.
You're talking about exhibitionism. I think there's a lot of people have been sort of come out and sort of laughing at themselves in a way. They've dressed up quite well, overdone it really, but it's only to sort of draw attention to themselves that they don't mind if you laugh at them, you know. They're just people who've got a sense of humour, you know. But they've enjoyed themselves.
We are